do this. Well, what you need to know is that a board minister may be the most Jonathan Mixley, Director of Operation Law and Director of Operation Law and Office at the Maritime Special Defense District. There's a college of staff college. He worked at the New Law.
Apparently, working is not a good thing anymore. Going to your job and actually encouraging people to work is not good. I guess it doesn't go along with that great thing that they want to do, so where they want you to literally sit and collect checks all the time. I think you know what I'm talking about. Wow, that thing right there, folks. I can actually put it on there too. It's kind of cool. I can't go for it at any rate. Getting on to the next thing here. Got a lot of stuff covered. All right, what else we got here? So yeah, apparently just because we had a video, a song, a commercial that said or encouraged people to work. Actually, what it was is like, work is boring, and when you're out of work, you want to do some business thing or something you love. And apparently, for some reason, because she had that in her message, that wasn't good. And of course, also someone else showed up at the Super Bowl. And of course, this may be old news at this point. I'm sure you may have seen that. He wasn't exactly given a standing ovation while he was there. Yeah, not super popular apparently. I don't know why. I thought he was the most popular dude ever. Apparently not. Um, Now, I got a lot of interesting things to come in this video. Someone's still not there today, folks. Someone's not there. Where's Nancy, man? Come on, where'd she go? I thought all this stuff was just theory. Oh, you got theories, folks. That's all it is. We're gonna get into that in a little bit here, of course. What is it, day 8, 9 now? Nowhere to be found. Of course. Then you have this here, here. Saw this video pointing out the fact that something interesting is going on between us and another place. This particularly, what we're talking about is potential this, folks, right here. Actually, maybe this one that might be more up to date there. Maybe that. It's actually saying here, it's talking about the real possibility. I'm new to this, folks. I'm new to this. Okay. I'll figure it out later. At any rate, I was on this guy's live show recently, Mike, and think any sense to you? He says, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. On top of that, they are training as a business, okay? Canada, they have a business going here. We're talking country here, folks. There are literally thousands upon thousands there. Maybe that's just an excuse to have them there? I don't know. There's a lot more. They apparently own a lot of stuff. They have 30 million there. I don't even remember. It's a very small number. It's like a tenth of what we have here. So it's a very small number. So that's like a huge number of people. At any rate, so that's something rather interesting. He's pointing out that this is happening everywhere. So there's a lot of things they're doing. A ton. And nobody notices. Also, nobody seems to notice this. We have a certain person missing. Oh, yeah. Well, interesting. I don't know. What do you think? It's kind of curious. Of course, I don't know what to think of it. Of course, like I said, I don't follow this whole thing. I mean, I'm just doing my own research. I don't actually listen to those guys. Okay? I don't follow this here. Okay? I don't follow this here. All the lights are off. Nobody's home. It's really obvious if you go watch it. And I'm not going to go pull it off. It's very obvious. Go do a search. You can find it yourself. It looks the exact same. And what you have here is obviously a lot of people there. And you can see someone standing on top as well. Actually, there's more than one. It looks like there's some over here. I didn't even notice those guys. I think there's some people right there. It looks like it. The video completely showing it. It's very obvious. I don't want to have to go through it all again. It's pretty obvious. There's a picture there of something clearly going on that shouldn't be. Okay? This is a rocket science, folks. Okay, and there's so much more. You're running on private jets. There's so much more. I actually did another video where I showed that his, I know you enjoy making fun of all this stuff, and it's whatever, dude. But I mean, the point is that you're completely ignoring all these things. That's the point. It doesn't matter if you believe in any of this. The fact is that, like, you can't move it now. And they're like, really? I can't believe that. Really? You put Gorilla Glue in your hair and it doesn't move now? No way. I can't believe it. I guess you're not going to have to comb your hair for a while. I don't even know if you can shave that off. That's kind of interesting. Um, Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Don't try this. At any rate, then we also have this. This is the last one here. So, talking about Star Wars. Star Wars. I know some of you love when we're talking about Star Wars, but we have Gina here. She apparently has apologized to Disney. Wow, that's amazing. Uh, well, I mean, she wanted to keep her job. I can kind of understand it considering saying that she likes working. Geez, that don't make any sense. I think they all apologize now. You know? I mean, that's basically where it's at. So,
So, 1947, all 74 years. Secret space program sounds sexy, doesn't it? Sounds mysterious. Classified space program is what it is. It's the posters, everything. If people want to read about the films, and click on the poster, it goes right through to a place you can watch the film. I mean, and I feel fortunate to share it with you. When you hear this information about the extraterrestrial phenomenon, I don't think there's much left to question if we're alone or not. Have you ever seen a 100-ounce silver bar? Now you have. You should give Noble Gold Investments a call. Director of President, engaging the human race. He has given over 1,000 radio and television interviews, and PRG's advocacy work has been extensively covered by national and international media. In 2013, the PRG group produced a citizen hearing on disclosure regarding the extraterrestrial presence issue and working to see that issue included in the ongoing presidential campaign. So, buckle up for this. Darcy is an incredible producer, director. He has several films and documentaries available on Amazon, so I'm going to leave the link to the description box. He brings a plethora of knowledge also. And right now, and Steve, I'd like to thank you for joining me here at Leap Project. I know you're all extremely busy, so wow, what a series in Cambridge that John Mack had founded. That the problem here wasn't science. There was obviously enough science and evidence to confirm the ET presence. So why isn't publicly engaged and politically engaged and so forth? And I realized it's the political decision. The political decision by the government to embargo the presence of the ETs from the human race, certainly the Americans initially, were political, national security matters. They wanted to embargo it for such time that they felt it was no longer a threat or engage the political reality of the embargo itself. And so I set up to do that and registered as a lobbyist to do that. Well, the Washington Post sent me pretty quickly, like, what the hell are you doing? What's this? And because I did what? It was very unusual. And I got a full-page article with science photographs. One of the worst articles I've ever taken, by the way. It's on my website. Of the business sector, which is almost having a front page article. Which is a front page article with this big a photo. But on the business page, it gave me, I guess, the credentials to start working on it. So it took a while. And I have a ton of questions to ask on that. But first, I wanted to jump over to you, Darcy. How did you get involved with the project?
Yeah, so I've actually been producing a number of feature-length documentaries on the UFO subject, the question whether we're being visited and the information is being suppressed. And those topics kind of range, they vary because it's intervention, some people allege being abducted. and you've also got all these other slices of ufology that tend to have some credibility to them. So, crop circles and this latest documentary that I revealed in January, which is about volcano sites, and active volcanoes that have UFOs showing up all across Latin America. And I interviewed Stephen Bassett back in 2018 when I was putting together one on abduction and a bunch of other topics that they can then disseminate to the public. I believe that the history of the truth embargo, as Stephen Bassett calls it, is very true. It's very credible. There's been multiple layers of cover up of information, like information that's not been allowed to be released to the public, and for many reasons. And to that point, it's exciting, and it's somewhere I want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Stephen, when you started this, just a gnat on the back of an elephant, if possible. But I also made decisions early on how I would conduct what I did. First of all, I wasn't going to hide. In other words, I wasn't going to encrypt. Recently, not too long ago, I did add signal to my phone and so forth. But initially, going back to '96, no, totally out in the open, no surprises, none of that. Not trying to weasel my way into some situation or get information from somebody that I shouldn't be talking to. I just played it very July 47, but didn't know much else. But the idea that they would have to embargo this for a while certainly is reasonable. And why the embargo stressed on from there is understandable as well. So essentially, they're just trying to defend the country. And so to demonize them or criminalize them by calling it you and hey, you're not the bad guy, you're doing your job. Like, hey, just need to change the policy here. So I've been untouched. And that's good because I have no desire to put a fight with any institution nuclear weapons. Absolutely. Very intelligent, just do it the way you did, and honorable also. It's kind of slimy when you see, I don't see this much anymore, but back in the day you would have reporters who just wanted to speak, right? So they would do whatever it took to get information from somebody that might lose their job or their career because of it. And I'm not a fan of that. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday about how there's certain people that have certain standards, and you're going to catch a lot more with honey than you will with vinegar in the sense of you're respectful and honorable, and you're looking for the truth. There's going to be people that are going to see that, and they're going to offer you information probably versus somebody that's trying to weasel their way in. Awesome. So with that being said, it's interesting because there's always like that, oh, it could happen tomorrow. It could land on the lawn of the White House and make themselves known. But they haven't yet. However, there's very high level officials come out and say, yes, they're good. We're working with, I've interviewed people, for example, Paul Hellyer, very high level in the Canadian political spectrum as well as military, deep-based, and we're working with us here on Earth, but they're not ready to make themselves known yet. I discount that. I'm not a fan of that. Well, not a fan. I have, Jaime said it's an interesting thing. It doesn't make any sense that he did this. But I think that he may have escaped the issue while working with Israeli government. Okay. He's in his 80s, by the way. And so he comes out, and there's been a lot of developments over the last 3 years. And we've seen actions in responses by the Navy, the Army, other scientists, and so forth. As people start to realize the disclosure train is getting ready to leave the station. I get that. They want to get on board. I think Avi Loeb at Harvard decided, hey, I want to board that train. Now, I can't come out and say the VP's here, but this Umula thing, hey, I'm not running that. She's been riding that thing for a long time. Great, no problem. But I'd like to say, obviously, you think that extraterrestrial civilization is and he's been reading about it. He's been watching stuff on the internet, docs, whatever. And so he then took that as fact and took that back out. And and you're going to talk about the issue later, and you mentioned the Galactic Federation. Does that mean he was engaging the Galactic Federation while working for the Israeli government? No. So I think most of what you said was simply a restatement of stuff he has read in the field. Well, not everything in the field is going to play out. And there is certainly something like that up there, and I hope that the Galactic Federation that really exists is not exactly like the one that Roddenberry created, because in the one that Roddenberry created, they're doing what we do. Gotta have arms race.
The military has been building craft that are able to go, and that the public record version of that has been Ixnay. And I would love to interview this individual. This is not the final frontier. It is the first frontier for securing a country's military defense. If you think about it, with all of the arms that we have out there that could be deployed to go to space and then come down on you from space, that's really where a lot of countries are spending their defense budgets right now. Do I think he knows something? Very possibly. I think, the Galactic Federation thing is, this goes back to even, folks that say that they can channel Zoltan or some kind of entity that speaks to them psychically. I don't really follow that. I'm not a big fan of the channeling stuff from the Israel Space Command. But he needs to say more. We need to really know where he got his information from. I don't know if it's 100% we know yet.
I appreciate that, and what you're both saying makes a lot of sense. And when you brought up the internet, unfortunately, almost everything's on the internet now. So when somebody says, "Where did you get your information from?" The internet, it's like, "Well, where did you get your?" Is Nibiru. So it's all out there. But use this term, and it's great. And I did notice what you said about maybe out there saying that they would have yanked him back so fast, or he would have literally had approval of Netanyahu himself. And that's not right. I've experienced this before. I've experienced dealing with some retired military and religious people, intelligence, well up in their 80s, who are trying to sort of get some things out and talk a little bit, and it gets a little rough. And other things that are popping up. All of this is in response to the unfolding scenario that the Superstars Academy triggered when it went to the New York Times with those major stories in December 2017. The explosive train is getting ready to go. It's stocking up the dining car. The crew is getting prepped. The engine is getting warmed up, and it's a question of who gets on the train. Right? The government acknowledges that, whether the bunkers acknowledge it, whether some media person acknowledges it, it doesn't matter. And every day, you're starting to see more and more people either getting to that point or approaching that point, which is the where do they come from? Wherever they want. We've looked at those, particularly in the ancient past. I'm a big fan of ancient aliens. I think they've got a lot of stuff right there. And Kevin Burns will go down in history. A lot of it's wrong. Earth-like planets. Meaning they're in that zone where everything that's happening with us could be happening there. So, yeah, they come from another planet. Right? It's like if a Japanese tourist turns up in Hawaii and says, "Where are you from?" I'm from another country.
I don't think there's no evidence that I've come across that provides proof that some of these visitors are coming from our solar system. There's stories like Stranger at the Pentagon that says some kind of advanced humanoid race came from Venus to visit our authorities there and offer them some strategies for our planet to develop and such, but that could be fiction. The surface temperature of Venus is something about, when you get so much data that closes in on
For the general public about astrophysics and astronomy and the 50s is very limited. And so if some entity shows up and takes up their craft for a quick examination, and you're thinking, where the hell are they from? It's Venus, Mars, somewhere, right? Not another star. So they were throwing these terms out, and they were in play. No, it's from another star. They have a workaround on relativity. We're closing in on that workaround in our physics right now, believe it or not. But I don't believe it. It's true. We do the check. I think we'd have interstellar drive within easily before the end of the century, which is a big deal by extraterrestrials. There's a whole nother program, ancient. It's a whole nother segment of ancient aliens, and one day they'll be doing those stuff, right? And I think as we go out in the solar system, we're going to find artifacts. We're going to find some artifacts of ancient bases or ancient facilities that they created in our solar system, which is exactly what we would do if we had interstellar craft and we were going to monitor and keep track. If I slide down that razor as much as I can, the most obvious, simplest explanation is the most likely explanation.
we saw like all kinds of information regarding our past, our future, that we live taking everything up and possible polar shifts. And if you look at our solar system, you look at the scars on Mars, like the Marianas Trench, and evidence of some cosmic bodies colliding as a planet, right? And he believes that our planet is like a floating petri dish, and we are race. We're all humans. We have local adaptations from living thousands of years in certain parts of the world that allowed us to change a little bit, but we all have the same reproductive organs and internal organs, and it's just small changes that we have. I think that, to your point of being here for thousands knew about this, and certain things that we were exposed to during their missions to the moon, and even their tail structures existing on Mars since the very first pictures being back from our probes we've been sending up. The military, starting in 2017, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's there's so much that they are holding on to that, if you look at John Greenwald's Black Vault, the amount of documents that he's gotten through Freedom of Information Act that have been just completely covered up and redacted.
Site. And some of these tablets were taken from Sitchin, and he came up with his own site. Right. But if you go outside of Sitchin and you read some of these, they're talking about pretty much what he was talking about.
I read his work, and I believe it. I think it's very possible. What are we doing? And we've got artificial intelligence really starting to catch up. We've got drone technology. Half of these UFO sightings that have happened over the years throughout history may not have even had occupants, because the type of craft is so small, and it's very possible these could be drones from other stars. If you can't send a fleet that has your race's occupants, but you want to check out another intelligent race inhabiting another star in the galaxy, what do you send? You send technology, you send a drone to make observations for you. So, again, these are all the things that have been reported in ufology are not conspiracy. They are logical. Conspiracy gets thrown around so much, There's all kinds of conspiracies out there. And the definition of conspiracy is a group of individuals that claim to do something, malevolent, or where national security agencies around the world know about the UFO issue, and not So the PR campaign is changing, but it's still a PR campaign because we know that there's been suppression of the real information for a long time. So what are they going to say next?
Well, and that's what I was going to mention is I'm so glad you brought up what the definition of conspiracy actually is, because a lot of times when people throw that word out there, they're throwing it out meaning just language is really important. And this is something I deal with all the time, and I'm working to do what I can. I think UFO is close. UFO could have been fine, but unfortunately it made a target of ridicule. It's got that time. In the days of the height of the anti-war movement, a lot of the activists decided the police were in fact their enemy. That's the real problem, and they came up with it did not help at all. They spent $250,000 defending themselves against Harvard to try to throw them out. Well, basically nullify his work by holding what they call a fine. By the way, Avi Loeb is getting all kinds of publicity, mostly positive. He's got a book out there. Let me assure you, if he tried to do this 30 years ago, he would be crucified. Which brings me to a point from even Christopher Mellon or Luis Elizondo or any of these people. And they say this and they say that. But one thing that comes out and says, well, looking at it, could be a drone, could be Russian. They're saying that, knowing that in fact the truth is there's an ET present. I am pretty confident that every single member of the Two Stars Academy people, with except for some of the, you don't have those kind of credentials and work at that level that long without being tipped off at lunch. You don't have to be in the damn program. It's like, hey, by the way, that ET thing is absolutely real. Of course they know. Am I criticizing for that? No. They're having to do what they have to do. And just coming out and saying what I'm saying is not going to help. Don't have that balance. So if you're a citizen and you're listening to this, I'm just reminding you, they may say this, but the fact is the government's known about this for 74 years minimum. And so this whole disconnect between everything people are doing and the reality is part of the reason, to the point that you've got insurrection. Right? Break down in authority, break down in media institutions.
Shitty conspiracy theories like QAnon and flat Earth theories.
You can't. We have got to turn away from the path we're on, which is institutional lying in the service to national security. We wanted to tell you, no, we thought you might get upset, right? That has to stop. It doesn't work. It's caused nothing but trouble. It undermines trust in government, undermines the social contract. It spreads, metastasizes into everything. Right? In fact, in a way, nobody believes anybody. If I'm on the internet and somebody says something, I don't like to believe that. But you will find exactly what I'm saying. That if we don't make major course changes in our policies, in our thinking, in our actions, massive sums of money to preparing for that really bad virus, not probably. What we will do is send more aircraft carriers and nuclear to it to be Chicken Little. Chicken Little is an idiot, right? We have massive available information. We have plenty of stuff to draw on. We have a pretty good idea of what the country's going to be like. We have people warning us, and we're not listening for different reasons. The politicians aren't listening to their cowards. The scientists are. Well, this level disclosure is so long and so potent that if we can get it done and move into the post-disclosure world, and finishing up how do we support your work, and how do we find out what you're working on? There's a lot of things people can do. For me, my website is paradigmresearchgroup.org. Easy to find. Huge amount of material on there about what I've been talking about. You can please follow me on Twitter, Paradigm Research Group. Follow my Paradigm Research Group Facebook page. And that's all good. That's all good. I have a new podcast which I launched specifically to go after the issues that I've been talking about. I mean, the congressional hearings and the debate after the impeachment trial is over. And the next is Minnesota. And I'm going to put up some links on my site. I'll do this too, but find that we think that congressional hearings are now quite possible. We understand the stage is being set. We want those hearings. We want to hear the military witnesses as soon as possible. And if you want to send some tweets to the news organizations, you can easily find them on Twitter. It's good, so they come up right away. And send it to the news organization. Look, the word is out that congressional hearings and military witnesses is very possible now. Let's do it. We want these hearings. We want to get to the bottom of this now. That would be very, very helpful. And I'll be talking about that. Also support the PPSA, because they're still around and they're important. Right? And follow the Twitter accounts of Elizondo and Mellon. I don't think Dusty has one, but if he does, follow this page. The disclosure train is getting ready to leave. And there's going to be some people in the front car, and some people in the middle car, but it's a very long train, huge train. It welcomes everybody. So if you want to get on that disclosure train in whatever way you want, get on board. And the totality and the number of people that are going to receive it, the most profound event of need. And it's going to happen in our life. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about too. Darcy's on board the train. I'm on board the train. Get on board the train, dude.
You can watch the trailers, you can click on the poster, it'll take you to the page, you can watch the film, and yeah, appreciate the support. Happy to have people's feedback.
System. All of the technology you are about to see comes probably from the assistance of the fallen angels, those who warred against the Heavenly Father and were thus cast down from heaven to this earth thousands of years ago. They have been here much longer than we have, and they are much smarter than we are. This information is all found within the Holy Bible. The Bible also tells they can get back at him is by dragging all of us down to hell with them. This is their agenda. Many of them have posed as friendly aliens, but they are in fact demonic entities with a dark agenda. Most of the world leaders have joined league with these fallen angels to gain access to their advanced technology, out of the fear that one nation will outdo the others if they don't join in. So keep this in mind as we go through these next couple, further proving it cannot be a lens flare of the sun. Lens flares can never go behind other objects in a picture or video. My personal opinion is that this object is being used to shield the planet from asteroids. Also happens with the projection of the sun. These older images from the northwest-facing camera at Portage Glacier, Alaska, also show a very skewed image of the sun because the camera is looking at the projected sun from an angle and not straight on. This way, not as many projectors are needed because I'm sure that they are very, very expensive. And the very same thing is happening here, as we saw in the construction paper example. When it's held at an angle, it looks similar to the sun in these images, doesn't it? And these things should come as no surprise to those of us who are watching and waiting for the return of our Lord. Jesus tells us in Luke chapter 21, verse 25, that we will see signs in the sky in which we are living. Before we close, I want to share another dream that the Lord gave to me upon this world full of sin and abomination. In this dream, I found myself standing next to a beautifully set table that was so long it seemed to go on forever. This place was more beautiful than the most beautiful royal palace ballroom I had ever seen in pictures. I knew exactly where I was, and it felt wonderful to be there the past few years. He had been known in his earthly life as an angry, abusive man who despised anything relating to churches or God. I actually couldn't find words to speak because I was utterly
literally back in time. Miles after Ford began transmitting back images. The first photograph that a human being has ever seen from the surface of that planet. On August 20th, 1975, the first Viking spaceship was launched. You are seeing something that no other human had ever seen before. Former seas and mountains, huge canyons.
That sense of wonderment and achievement and always working towards your goal.
we can do, and we will do.
And liftoff.
Mars is unavoidably technical.
We landed and
We drove, we orbited.
Together, but the attitude was together we can do it.
the future is what you make out of it, and you can make it real.
Occurring in the state, and people now have an option to not play, which is huge. In the past, we were all stuck, and now you have an option to opt out. And enough people that are rich enough and influential enough are in that game, which makes it harder for the politicians to either dismiss you like they did in 2017, or to use the Bitcoin option, because option market to beat retail over the head with selling option contracts short. There's now enough people with a lot of Bitcoin that Elon Musk can crush any short seller in the futures market by saying, I went ahead and bought another $500 billion of Bitcoin. They don't know now who's going to be the next major purchaser of cryptocurrency.
History's been made after GameStop Academy on the crypto side. I took part in various courses, personal coaching chat rooms, Signals trading tool. That's where I look for price signals of cryptocurrency from Bob Kudlik, TradeGeniusAcademy.com, who also offers other signature trading tools for stocks, exchange traded funds, binary options, and commodities. And use the promo code Valentine for 40% off all non-bundled items. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. And now on with the video. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm with Bob Kudla, TradeLikeAGenius.com. We come about every month to have a conversation about how we see things that have unfolded over the last 30 days, what are currently unfolding, and how we see a greater time. Now, if you haven't been following the news, fertilizer shortages are happening across the United States, and I can attest to seed difficulty here, and he's only able to walk away with 100 pounds of millet. So they've all told me the same thing. They're having difficulty getting the seed. Their fertilizer was gone, and I was able to get a couple bags of triple 19 or 1919, and they had a few things of triple 10. But they're gone. There's nothing in the farm co-ops right now. That's one aspect. But MicroStrategy, and this is something I'm going to ask Bob, and hopefully we can get some information from him, if it's a greater trend. There's Michael Saylor up at MicroStrategy coming out, and is this a greater trend happening? But for me, it's just more of a validation point that we're now at the very entry point of a switch of systems. And that's all what has happened last week, at least in the currency side of things. It's that validation point that we've hit, and we're starting to move into something new.
Would you call it a reset this early? That's a stretch. But everybody out there listening, again, tradeluckygenius.com here with Bob Kudla. Floor is yours, Bob.
Yeah, hey Dave, hey, welcome. And this is no surprise to you, at least you and me and people who've been listening to us over the years. You know, in September and October is really when this thing is started. And it started when Powell opened his mouth and started talking about the digital currencies and the expectations that the next presidential administration in the United States and that's also the administrations that are going around the world are going to have to just create fiat like crazy to attempt to accelerate the velocity of economic activity after this pandemic crisis they created in itself. I'm talking about, you know, the necessities of life kind of stuff, like what's the price of gold and the dollar and Bitcoin against a loaf of bread kind of conversation, against a tanker full of oil conversation, not these esoteric, you know, currency right now because they're trying to stay away from the black hole of zero velocity that all these policymakers have made. So you have a situation where a gentleman like Michael Saylor at MicroStrategies, he figured out early on that, hey, and also the gentleman from Overstock.com said, hey, they're going to print us into oblivion. It doesn't matter what the pyramid, right? The dollar and gold are the kind of last two standing. But a third gentleman showed up, 10 ladies out there, a third lady showed up called cryptocurrency. And then you have a gorilla out there called Bitcoin. And that's now this basically the de facto standard in which all coins are going to be measured against. So now that market's big enough, and I would say stable enough, if you will, to now start absorbing institutional money. And that's happening. And so sellers aren't providing a service, but they're actually vultures that have inside information and access to dark pools of money, tail over the head with selling option contracts short. There's now enough people with a lot of Bitcoin that Elon Musk can crush any short seller in the futures market by saying, I went ahead and I bought another $500 million of Bitcoin. You see what I'm saying? They don't know now who's going to be the next major purchaser of cryptocurrency. So they're not going to be able to short it like they can do with gold and silver. Because unlike gold and silver, people are actually holding this stuff, you know, and taking it off the market. So I think this is a huge thing. I think they're front running the attempt at the great reset. I think they're going to make more shortages. Bitcoin is always a short supply, right? Because the float is what 18% of all the coins out there, which is kind of a big advantage of it. So stocks out there like Mara and Grow and Riot and TPC that you can buy on the stock side.
You know, I'll circle back to that. You know, what's the real notional value of Bitcoin to bread? Then you need to start breaking it down. Is it hard red wheat bread? Is it soft wheat bread? Is it barley? Is it rye bread? And are you going to get different categories of food stuff to be real comparable? Looking back in history, we always see that silver was not the value, it was more how much could that silver buy of food. When you're talking about fertilizers, but well, let me stop for a second. With the notional out there that's available to money in total is there out there comparatively right now of what's in cryptocurrency as a whole, general market as a whole, if you will, but specifically for Bitcoin, because that seems to be where a lot of money is going to be parked for store of value, not movement of money in. You know, Ethereum's great. And again, you know, people realize they missed the Bitcoin bandwagon, they might actually jump over to Ethereum because it pretty much powers the ecosystem inside cryptocurrency for almost every, and not all, but many. It's the number one to power the crypto space in terms of payment protocols, platforms, etc. So the amount of money that's still available from now to go into Bitcoin and into the cryptocurrency sphere. How many loaves of bread are we talking about there, Bob? Rye bread.
I don't want to call it unlimited, but there's a lot of cash out there. And so, you know, we were just doing the math before the market closed today. And, you know, our stock and flow analysis basically said we're ahead of where we thought we'd be in 2021 at 44,000 for Bitcoin. But, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that we'll hit 100,000 by the end of April. And low estimates are 370,000 on the stock and flow, which is basically, you know, the mathematical price movement of Bitcoin. But what Elon Musk did today, if everybody else followed suit, you know, you'd be looking at potential. And I hate to say this stuff because I am not just trying to listen food and all the attendant components driving higher because of the promises they made. So we're going to get to 70s kind of shocks that are going to hit people, and I think it's going to be eye-opening because the Federal Reserve has been able to operate with impunity up until this point. They've had it under control, but they're losing control, you know, and now it's leaking out. And I think Bitcoin now is in a position where they try to make it illegal for people to hold it. I think too many people with too much money that are too important are going to cause that to be a very problematic conversation. I think a lot of politicians own Bitcoin that will never admit to it, and we know a lot of wealthy people have it already too.
Well, you know, with the price rises today, they were so happy and joyous that not only the petrol price to drive around with the $3 a gallon gasoline shortage, but the price of your food going up and doubling by the end of the year. Like, what kind of chaos is this going to cause? And then they're going to print all this money, and I think they're right down the right trajectory at the point where people are going to try to store value, but this is going to turn into a Charlie Foxtrot faster. You know, the tornado's going to spin the side of your house off there.
Yeah, look, you know, it's the old adage of, you know, you're both running, and I sit down like you, I keep responding like, what are you doing? You cannot run the mountain lion. I don't have to. I only have to outrun you. It's the same thing with all they have to do is opt out. Because you don't have to win by fighting. You can win by Gandhi in it. Just opt out. And I think people are doing that. You know, we're out of silver. Cryptocurrencies are going to be dear for people to get a hold of. Like you said, you're smart getting into farming. You're going to need to control your ability to pay for these things or to produce these things. And the
I got some bags of 0.450, and I got the last 2 bags out of one of the small co-ops. Now, for me as a guy, to walk into a co-op and purchase the last 2 50-pound bags of phosphate in that place, that's a huge problem. That should be stacked to the rafters. People are getting into the fertilizer and get for anything in the future. I had to pre-order the buckwheat, had to pre-order the sorghum, and that last year they had it. So there's a huge disconnect. And talking to the person, I was like, well, that's weird. Last year you had everything. And they're like, yeah, it's so far behind. We don't even know what we're going to get. It's behind. You got to order. Luckily, I have a farm card and registered to the farm. So I have, you know, first at line. And those of you who are thinking about registering in business, I would highly suggest registering because you're going to get first in line at any of these bulk buy places. And if you're talking about bulk buying seeds in 50-pound bags, all you have to do is, I got a registered farm. And they're like, well, welcome on in. Guy down the street, drives in and goes, hey, we're living down the street. And they're going to be like, sorry, this is for farmers only. That's where we're going right now this year. Right now we're going this year. I saw Artie there, and I'm like, wow, we are at a serious juncture here. If we can't get the seed in and, you know, prices keep going up, it's going to be unaffordable for most people. And how are they going to do? They're going to have to opt out of something. You know, for what you're talking about, the Gandhi style, opt out of, you know, all these mandates that are required. Okay, can't.
Welcome back to another video on the Final Day channel. Today is March 27th, 2019. Today we will be viewing a manufactured structure in space that kind of looks like a fried egg. He's giving an update on exactly where Earth is in relation to the magnetic anomaly that we are heading toward. The purpose of this channel is to show the viewers that we are living in the very last days according to the Holy Bible, and to explain how to prepare for what's coming. The images shown here all came from the Alaskan Federal Aviation weather cameras, which image in these videos is 10 minutes apart, 12 in the morning local time, and the moon goes from small to large within 10 minutes. The camera isn't looking straight on at the projected image. Instead, it is looking from an angle so that the moon is shaped like the construction paper we just saw when held at an angle. Some of you may have seen this footage a few months ago from the Skagway, Alaska camera when a structure was being built out in space, and it kind of looks like a fried egg in these images. This structure is now finished and fully camouflaged. The God is guaranteed to God's faithful believers in Psalm 91 in the Bible. Here's a modern example of the true believer's protection from God's judgment. Some of you may have seen the news on this a couple weeks ago, but a Christian family in Wuhan, China did not get the virus, even though thousands around them died. Psalms 91, verse 7 and 8 read as follows: 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Here is an update on where we are as we head toward the powerful magnetic anomaly on our path around the sun. Here's where we were yesterday, March 26th. The judgment that will not destroy God's faithful believers. As you can see in the diagram, Earth will be making its first pass by the magnetic celestial object in mid-May, which will be yet another judgment that will not affect God's faithful believers. Earthquakes will increase dramatically, as well as volcanic activity and the heating up of Earth's molten core. As we approach this magnetic object, solar radiation will greatly increase, according to Mike from around the world. And Mike also said the Earth will see 300 and 400 degree surface temperatures in isolated places that are aimed directly at the sun during solar energy blasts. Mike says that Earth's rotation will be interrupted and that day and night will become mixed up. A day won't be 24 hours. This has already happened to other planets in our solar system as they have passed by this magnetic celestial anomaly. All these things are judgments that will not fall upon God's faithful believers. And then sometime in between June and August, according to Israeli News Live on March 16th, Earth will be passing through a large asteroid debris field, visible on the video you are currently watching. Mike from around the world confirmed this information, saying that it will begin as a small trickle. People will just start to see an increase in the number of shooting stars, and then they will begin to fall to Earth, but only in small numbers at first. But eventually, most places on Earth will have significant damage from these falling asteroids, and Mike says that they will cause poisonous arsenic gas. The asteroids are yet another judgment that will not harm God's people. The New King James Version of Luke chapter 21, verse 36 reads, "Watch therefore and pray always, that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass."
Diego. I'm back bringing you another video. If you're new to the channel, it's finance. Guys, comp token, compound.finance has been exploding lately. Now, today I want to talk to you about the loophole on how you can get money through this project. Because this is a DeFi project, and that's what it's all about. I don't know about you, but I'm in this. If you search my channel, you can go ahead and find it here. Or if you actually go to playlist, you can just go to my DeFi playlist, which is really not like a super educational DeFi, playlist. But I have a couple of things in here that you might catch some gems from. So go ahead and check it out, man, if you're trying to learn this stuff. Now, in case you haven't known, actually, we can go back to the main page. Comp token, it 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 went it went crazy. It rocket blasted off, and right now it's ranked number 22. Ranked number 22. It's down 10%, and yet it's ranked number 22. So you can imagine how crazy the price went. The price went all the way to $315, and it just got listed on CoinMarketCap. Token just came out a few days ago. Value number one right now over Maker. All right, over Maker. So it's real crazy stuff going on. Total value locked up is 1.52 billion. This DeFi stuff is getting crazy. Some people are saying, "Oh, DeFi is so hype right now that you gotta be careful." That's when you get it popping. So right now I have some basic attention tokens that I have supplied, and me supplying this basic attention token is earning interest. Reason I'm doing basic attention token is because it has an outrageous annual percentage yield of 27, almost 28% right now. That's just while I can get it. That's the way I'm looking at it. I will take it while I can get it, and I'm hoping that it lasts at least for, maybe if it doesn't stay all the way at 27, even if it gradually comes back down all the way to like 5% or something, or even less. Like hopefully there's 0.02. People don't really want that. USDC, we'll get back to that. Tether, another stable coin. Wrap Bitcoin. I started off trying with Wrap Bitcoin. It had an 18% interest rate. It already came down, and on top of that, you cannot use this as collateral. You can't use Tether as collateral as well, so that you can borrow. If you'd like to borrow some cryptocurrency, hey, lock up some of these crazy high yields. I just did this 2 hours ago, and I'm already earning, right? I deposited 2,000. Is that whether you're borrowing or you're supplying, you get to earn comp token. This is where things get spicy. So you get to earn comp token. Now, right now, I said I started moving industry. You can actually delegate your voting. So you don't only have to vote yourself. You can delegate it to somebody you trust. Say I wanted to be a representative or whatever, and you guys trusted me. You could say, hey, I just want to let Lo go ahead and do the voting for me. I know Lo Key got this, and you can delegate it to me. I don't have that, so I'm not suggesting that you do that for me. But if you have somebody you trust, you can actually delegate your vote to them. If you don't want to
what's on hand, $1.5 billion buy of Bitcoin to a lot of skeptics. A lot of people very skeptical about that investment. And as more time has gone, I think the move was genius. And I think that it could have started a major snowball effect into what is to come now with the entire space of all of the different companies out there that now can be converting their treasuries to something other than dollars. Very interesting here. It could get, to me, it seems like a snowball effect. It could start really snowballing, and everybody in the Bitcoin community has to really give Michael Saylor a lot of credit right now, because the coincidence of Tesla making this move into Bitcoin at just a little bit after Michael Saylor was in a tweet conversation with Elon Musk is extremely interesting. So I believe that conversation happened between Michael Saylor and Elon Musk. I don't think it's a long shot to think that they spoke. And in that Twitter conversation, if you look up Michael Saylor tweets Elon Musk on Google or something, I'm sure it'll show up the tweets that they had back and forth. And Michael Saylor essentially said, I will give you my strategy. I will tell you why we went into Bitcoin, over $1 billion into Bitcoin. I will give you our strategy here. And shortly after, Tesla buys 1.5 billion of Bitcoin. Interesting. So, in my personal opinion, I think Michael Saylor had a lot to do with this movement by Tesla, and I'm very proud to make this leap. You got to remember, this is an over $800 billion juggernaut of a company. $815 billion Tesla is worth right now. For them to do this is huge. Huge.
This sort of deal to the valley of the shadow of death, and we're here where we tempt not the righteous man so conviction, righteousness, with clowns that can pack inside of a little car, like a Yugo or something. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones like 435 plus the remainder of 100 minus 17. They can all pack in the trunk for their Cadillac or something. It's just like the clowns that we come out in the truck. Another one's coming out. And they think, I don't recognize that turd hole of our capital. It's a city that is laced with Masonic symbolism. It's a city that is just a complete global monument to the dark lords of this world. And that's what it's become. Whether it was designed intentionally, which somewhat, yes, that way. But over the years, DC has just become an absolute cesspool. And it's really a magnet towards that sort of mentality. There's an elitist group that can roll the majority. There's an elitist group that knows better than everybody else. There's an elitist privileged group that has their right to be there and to filter their life through the taxation of the American public that they can spend for whatever reason they want for the benefit of themselves and their own capitalized projects. Wow. I get through with that. It almost sounds like something biblical, like tyrannically biblical, artistic biblical. It's stories of the Bible. And that's quite literally what we're dealing with. And it's a time that we have to reflect very heavily on what we assume. It is through Christ to God, so we have to be walking in the body of Christ as we do that. Which means we're walking in that pathway of love, giving, building relationships of respect, grace, and we're walking in that line of truth. So if we're going to be accepting the sort of the dirt and stupidity that we see coming out of that capital, then we can't have it both ways. You can't sit here and say, oh, that's people that represent them. Oh, that's okay. It's their politicians. They're corrupt. Oh, that's President Sleepy Joe. He got there illegally, but that's okay. No, it's not.
And anybody out there that has said we just need to get over it and accept it because that's what it's going to be for the next 4 years, I'm going to tell you that they're more than wrong. Because if you do that, you become, it does not define you. It's a little token we like. And so we kind of hold on to those novelties and we say, well, this is pretty cool. And I like DC because it was really cool little hub around the corner. I love Crystal City because it was like a great little tapas place down there. It is good. But it's a complete, it's a city, probably worse than any city, at least in the United States, where pilfering of people's rights, pilfering of people's hard-earned income, pilfering of every possible thing they can do for their own benefit. And the proclamation of wars that have absolutely no justice in the end, other than the slaughter of whole cultures for the sake of power and somebody's personal gain because somebody bought some politicians off. And Nibiru was wiped out. God wasn't going to happen. I think that there's a great lesson though in the beginning of all of this. Is it's the beginning of the story of Nathan is kind of poetic verse. It is very much like Exodus 34:6-7. I'm going to read that verse. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, "Thou suffered thousands, forgiven iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children to the third and the fourth generation." This is a very of Abraham, and it's parallel to this idea that God is slow to wrath. God is forever patient and extended. We're all looking for justice as if justice is now. There's different types of justice. There's different types of justice when God is involved because it isn't for the entertainment purpose. We've laughed too many times about the entertainment of, and I've done it too. When I say we, I make sure I include myself in that because even now I'm thinking, wow, that would be one way to pay off the debt. Put a few of these people up swinging off a tree about forever here because part of what we live right now is this place under our rule and the place that we have to walk into be carried forward in this fight. We're dealing with something up there that I think we have a couple of primary roles. And one is that we no longer stand at all. We cannot save this nation and lead this nation out of darkness. That's what we are doing. And we are fighting for those children. And part of that fight is to get to the parents to awaken them because there is a precedent in Scripture that I believe that once somebody makes a choice that leads their family down that path and it corrupts the children, that generational cycle may last 4 generations. That should put fire under everybody to try to reach out where we can. And there's a point where we can't reach someone. From you came one who plotted evil against the Lord, a worthless counselor. Thus says the Lord. They are at full strength, and many, they will be cut down and pass away. Break his yoke from off of you, and I will burst your bonds apart. The Lord has given commandment about you. No more shall your name be perpetuated from that. So many people, especially at the center of our capital, mocking God, mocking truth, mocking those that walk with God. Those are very dangerous times to claim that for us in a very interesting world. We aren't the deliverers of justice. We are the brick builders of peace. God is the one that wields the power of might, power of justice. And so it's a place where we have to delicately walk. There is no question and desire to see justice delivered, especially after we've witnessed so much wanton verbal destruction of the thing. They're drunk with their own power. They're drunk on their drink. This is the walk that we take. And it's a walk that we have to learn from the past. The one we can celebrate the fact that justice is coming, but we hold that walk of grace and peace. And the more that we hold that walk of grace and peace, in my belief, and I think Scripture supports this, the more it empowers we have a, you're walking, it's almost like walking the opposite of what you feel. There's an interesting martial arts that functions, if you've ever studied that, like Aikido. Because Aikido is never the intent to see somebody by using their own force against them. But it's the art of evolve between do, do, and the do is the art. They land themselves out, they bruise themselves, you ultimately wear them out to such a degree that they break and they capitulate and they give in by their own free will. We're in such a moment. It's a siege against justice, it's a siege against truth, it's a siege against faith, it's a siege against every single thing that we hold dear. Ironically, it's happening within the walls themselves. A place for those ravenous with anger and hatred, ravenous with hatred and for all that we stand for all that Trump stands for. Just with. We all see the justice. And I guess the part, it's a dark justice that always comes out in these texts because in the end it's sieging the city. Usually everybody dies. They die by the blade. Pretty often. So what we are here when we have to be careful in this walk is how much we're seeking the justice rather than seeking the peace. We're building bridges. We're walking in this world to elevate hearts, to crack open the darkness that has wrapped around so many hearts, to reawaken them back into people. We're here to be the strength of what Patriots truly are, to provide hope, opportunity, visions of glory. Not rainbows and unicorns, because this isn't a path of idealism. This is a path of realism. But the reality is that as we walk through that, the most real thing we have in our world is the power and grace of God that is through us. So we have to work constantly at present to this fight in a way that seems contrary to what our emotional desires are, which is we seek that sort of justice. Literally. And in that place, we're seeing a smaller and smaller group. They're all being divided. We can see who they are. We know that. And they're making choices. And this is the whole point of where we are right now. The end of these stories, biblical stories, one thing bring in and we seek out to will sweep in, we seek out to will clean. But the one gets taken away is an innocence. They've already suffered, and that steps in. There's this pure evil thing. And that place right there is, this is a place where we're defining life. And the place that we arrive to, especially in David, is a place where when the finally know even your hurt, your wound is grievous, all who hear the news about you clap their hands over you, for a punishment has not come, your unceasing evil. So there will be none that will care for those that are left, because all of their unceasing evil will reveal. It isn't that everything. There's a process of justice here. There's a completely different type of justice than we can try to visualize. I'm not saying there won't be forms and choices now, after that fourth generation. They will be remembered, both for the good and especially for the evil. It's interesting. And it happens that if you take a customer that has a bad experience, they will, in the end of the day, repeat that bad experience, share that bad experience with other people. They will share that bad experience with an average of 50 different people before they consider that experience over. 50. The depths of the depravity are witnessing the evolution, the evolving nature of justice. But it only succeeds, in my opinion, if we hold that line, not reacting to the sort of eating it every single day. They're using elements within the FBI to suppress information. They're using accusations to try to make us portray us as something we're not. They're dragging our president in once again, trying to humiliate him in front of the world. And what was his response? I'm looking forward to it, he said. What was his response before that to us? No violence, no violence, no violence. 3 times. Why 3 times? Did you know that to make a curse, the most powerful curse you can make, that a witch can make is 3 incantations? And did you know that to undo a curse, you can undo a cycle of violence against the people, of oppression, of human suffering, and it's always targeted at the innocent, and it's always at the benefit of the few. Pillage those that have had this. But what we have learned and what we continue to understand is this is all the same cycle by the same bloodline. And this is a bloodline that goes back to the beginning, back to the fallen. We're literally witnessing as the face of its many forms of the true evil. This is where we are now. And by the true evil, there is only one. And while that may have been what happened in the past, pretty clear where God's placed us now. We're wielding another type of sword. We're wielding the sword of truth and the sword of light. And we walk proudly with that, walking closer within the frequencies that align us with God, to feel that strength within Him, to be able to step away from the lures and traps that He set constantly around us. This is the walk we're on. And a reminder again, but not at the end, but at the beginning of everything. Which is the irony of this whole story. Because it is at the beginning that Nathan reveals the truth. As we walk through the story, it ends in destruction and literally a sword placed to the king. And the truth is this: I love my country, but I don't need evil leading. And for that reason, I will stand boldly with God to ensure that whatever I'm asked to do in this walk and this fight, I will do boldly. And now they get to live the echo of their memory for generations to come. Their bloodlines will never be forgotten. And that's the burden and the truth of the love of the Spirit. Lord, give us that strength to walk on this path, to continue to awaken those, give hope to the many that are living in darkness, to build bridges, to help people come over, to walk on this side of the river, to see the glory that sits before us, to experience the power of love. Let us heal this nation. Let our prayers bring in your voice, and let us rain down a true holy war on this evil that will free us from the faiths. Time to walk boldly. We have a lot of work to do. Not going to get easier. Not going to go away quickly. Your way, but to live in that place of evil, to live in that place of hatred, and discord. We live in harmony. We're going to walk a beautiful walk with God. Always press into the fight. Above all, pray and pray a lot. The nation needs that healing. And when you confront evil, take a moment to laugh and remind evil. Yep.
Defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that mankind is doomed, that we are gripped by forces that are seemingly unsolvable, and we believe they can do it again. Surely the opening vistas of space promise high cost, and hardships, as well as high reward. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer and rest, await. But this city of Houston, this state of Texas, this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested they wish to look behind them. This country was conquered by those who move forward. So will space. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what...
This year, show space. It has only one intent: to destroy God's life and to enslave. It has no scruples. It has no that will hold the line. This is war. We fight. We push. We climb. We never give in. We become the nightmare that evil didn't know existed. We pray. We stand. We live by the words, in God we trust. We fear nothing. We are the light that can never be extinguished. It will help deliver God's wrath. Good evening, Patriot. Hope everyone's had a good day. I've been reflecting as we're working through this project right now and developing our own large space our own server system. We're using a lot of open source tools. One of them is the chat we're using. It's called IRC or MIRC. It's for technical information. But what's really impressed me is how much effort is put out. Aren't costing us anything to use. There's been years in development of people putting in their time and their skills to develop something truly amazing. And I just finished a conversation a little bit ago. The person who's leading the tech effort in this survey, and I can't tell you, when you run into people like mine, it's really impressive. He's given so much of his time to this, literally, giving this little blood to us anyway. But it's really what I think that we all need to be geared towards, and looking at this whole walk in a completely different way. And I've been kind of touching on this a lot, and that's 1 Corinthians 2, 6 to 16. And we're going to go through this again tonight, because I think there's deep wisdom in this of who we are, can be, and it opens up the potential of doing things in a way we've never imagined. We're very much constrained right now by the concerns and fears. A good example is that if you heard the news today for Barnes FM, X22 talking about it tonight, now the tech giants are coming after Podbean. Why are they coming after Podbean? Because Podbean's allowed free speech. So of course that spins up this whole kind of frenetic conversation, and people start to get concerned. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm literally not concerned. I'm not concerned because I know where we're going and what we're doing. We've made the initial inroads. The team has been developed. We're moving towards this new server capability. We won't be perfect when we launch. What we do is we're trying to elevate all of us, and we're just kind of the core piece. In elevating all of us, we're trying to make us all stronger and all free and all sovereign. I can live with a lot less in my life, really. I live pretty humbly in that. Because what we're part of is something so much bigger than each of us. And it's all part of being this walk with God. And this is a temporary place in which we house ourselves on this earth. And we're so much, in this last year, we've been witnessed and exposed to and made in certain ways work to comply to rules of a tyranny. They're trying to tell us how to live. And an extreme that every one of us has had to make certain adjustments. When this process came out, I was in a fairly good position as far as living away just to the degree that I could from the restrictions and rules of working in the corporate world. And to be honest, I've been in that for most of my life because I haven't worked in the corporate world for the very reason that I never got along with the people that made the rules. So I ventured out on my own for most of my life. Grew up in a family where my dad was a sole proprietor who survived successfully in some of the worst economic conditions because of two things. The first one being faith, and the second one being an uncommitted resolve to always walk in truth and never give up. And I've carried that in my own life. So when I talk on things, I just want to be clear about a couple of those. They're paying you a big benefit, and they're paying you a big 401k for, and they're giving you all these things. And they're luring you in. And for my own self, I think we're knowing what it's like because I've built them. If you haven't started making decisions, I don't mean ideas, I mean decisions to move your life often away from that path of control into the path of sovereignty. We need to hurry up because this world is changing, and it's changing right before us. And that's kind of where this is all leading is that in order to live free, we have to start looking at things differently. Sure, we need income to survive. I'm not in hiding. Oh, he doesn't want his children to live that way. But at the same time, there's another level of how we look at wealth, and most importantly, how we prioritize the use of wealth. Whatever wealth is. Wealth is a very nefarious term. It's a wealth of love, it's a wealth of spiritual richness. Part of it is very recent. You can even in wealth. And that's through investments in things that we've developed that are available for others to use for themselves to gain freedom and wealth. And that's why I use this idea of open source. It is a process of when we start to look at things in our life and our business, when we start to seek to develop, maybe develop an enormous amount of wealth, understanding how to run a business. And then you're able to share that. Maybe you're with somebody who's starting a business. paying into the communities that we want to live with. And in paying into the communities, we're building into a future. It's going to be a future that we all want to live with. This is a concept of intentional community, and it's an important thing to grasp. We're not living now just for ourselves. We're living as people that we want to live with. We're intentionally designing, building, and putting forward into a world the way we want it to be. We all love the Constitution. We're walking with God. And we're here. And we're at a juncture in life where the old world isn't withering. It's going to be around for a while. It's watching it quite a while. And we're going to get thrashed around it there. But also, the snake isn't completely going to go away, because part of the snake that we're dealing with is human nature, which is just of discontent, that seed of distrust, that seed of deviousness, has been well woven into the world which we currently live. What we need to do is be thinking about how we can basically work out most of that seed, that nasty seed, and get separated in a way to where it has little chance of ever coming back. Its chance of coming back will be its ability to get into those people that are right around us. It promises us the moon and all these opportunities, unlimited wealth, as long as we play by their rules. Google is a great example ever. It's common over at Google to make $250,000 a year with unbelievable benefits, like chefs that are on staff 24/7 and they're there. Anytime you want to get off to work out, there's all these gyms and opportunities for places to work out. You can do your own creative projects. This all sounds very alluring, but nothing comes without a major price. Because in the end, they own your ideas, they own everything that you do, and they own you. It all sounds good at the beginning. True sovereignty and true freedom cannot be. There's no cost on that. There's a cost on that anyway. And I will tell you, having walked the path that my dad showed me in many different forms, I've had a number of different businesses, been successful, not successful. I would not take any other path, ever. Because the freedom that you gain from that, and knowing that you're responsible, you're accountable for all that you have, and what is around you is yours that you take. Not because someone gave you a paycheck for it. Because your efforts, what your salary, and all these extra benefits. I mean, that sort of stuff that sounds cool. I don't want to sound so negative to it, because it's real. But you lose connection with the process of development. You're even a small team of people that are building something. It's so much different than when you're part of a big machine. That's kind of the thing. It's not like everybody has to be the sole provider. That's all they do. But it's part of working together collectively in small teams. And you're always working for the betterment of growing something and putting something into the world that's greater than yourself. So, one of the things that's evolved out of this podcast, because I started the podcast with, so I was just drawn to starting the podcast, and as it's grown, I've been stunned how it's grown in an amazing way. And the number of people that have come here to volunteer time to build this, and it's humbling, because we're together, depending on themselves, to be accountable for the type of work that we do. To be in a community, one person starts to slide it with these people that will help them up, to make sure that they're successful, but not to take over for them, but to let them earn their path and walk the path. But know that the resources there that they can time into, but every single time that something bumps, they don't have to pop out a check that can go and go to the community. And everybody's working together. It's not idealistic because it's hard work. It's very much kind of a George John Galt type Atlas Shrugged world where you have to produce and you're accountable, but there are people there in the community who can give you that sort of resource needs to ensure that you can continue to go forward. And when we do that, and we're starting to place that into the forward part of our lives and lean into that, we're really starting to build something, not just talk it, not just pray about it, but we're building something. As we bring the power of our faith, the power of God into that space, there's, and as we do this, and we're putting things out there for others, putting resources out there for others to use, be it, as an example, be it taking our talents and we put them onto an audio study course, or we're going to take, we're going to do it for others to use without cost. That's the sort of paying in and paying forward in the world I'm talking about, where other people can take it, add to it, and continue growing it. And in doing so, we're literally paying into a future, a shared future, and building an intentional world, an intense rest. It's only a matter of will. Maybe 1 Corinthians 2:16. Yet on the maturity we impart wisdom, although it is not a wisdom of this age or the rulers of this age who are doomed to pass away. But we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of God, which God decreed before the ages of our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, what no eyes have seen. And if we are there, and we're accepting, as I hear so regularly, I've heard tonight, and I've heard for the last year, I can't do this, I can't get rid of the space diaper because I have to work for this thing to make money. In the beginning, that's one thing. A year into that, it's nothing more than an excuse. And we have to get to a place where all of these contradictions that that's how we have to speak. Those restrictions are being put on us by a corporate world, a corporatocracy that has been putting end around in our Constitution for the sole purpose of enslaving us for 30 pieces of silver. That's what we're selling our soul for at the end of the day. And that's what has to stop. And the only way that stops is for each one of us to make that decision. It's an individual decision that allows us to walk with a collective group. We have to make the decision that we are going to walk through. And when we do, that doesn't mean suddenly we snap the fingers and it's all over. To build the podcast to where we are today has taken me, in some, 2.5 years. And before that, there was another 3 years of social media. So it's not like something that happens overnight. And it's not, and they fight in with that. We're gifting God gifts that He's given us, pieces of that, the necessary components of that for others to be inspired by, to use, and to grow. That's intentional. You may or you not make that $250,000 a year from building. I have no idea. And I'm not in any way suggesting you shouldn't. You should. If it's given the opportunity. If God presents you the opportunity to make $10 million a year, do it. But don't worship it. And pay into the world and use it for what you need, but admire the fact that what God's giving you is an immense resource, an immense gift in whatever capacity to be able to give it to the world in a way greater than what the podcast has done for them. And I am grateful for that in a way I can't even express. Because that payment is greater than any money could ever give. I don't care if you offer me $10 million, I would do it. So I'll take that level. And I'm serious. Because it's something so powerful. And so this is, in a way, a bit of a personal testimony and a sharing of a personal dream that I don't think is before us is this incredible opportunity to literally walk away from this incredible stupidity that we are witnessing, an unbelievable level of treachery, lies, deceit. That is at the core of everything that has been leading us, everything that has been trying to shape this world. And I'm not going to ever pay any part of it. I'm done. It's all gone and I don't have anything. Well, there's kind of two sides to that. Number one, God doesn't want you to get into a place where you're so struggling all of a sudden that you can't pay the bills because you're in a transition point. But I will tell you, always ensuring that we have what we need. The problem is when we are walking in this place where half the time we're in a world of scarcity, and the other time we're trying to touch that world and mint the world. I'm stunned and very witness in my moment of time to see it's like threefold, fivefold, tenfold back. And the center point of all of that is absolute solid place of trust and the unwavering position of truth. I can't think of a greater world that we have than all these amazing souls that are here. And that's the world I want to be in. That's the world I want to grow. I want to empower in everything I can do. And if we all take that same step, and this incredible love for one another, because we have none of this other nonsense matters. It's just like, oh, that's what you're going to do. And I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do? Because you can't do anything to me because I'm standing here with these incredible people. And I'm standing here with God. And what are you going to do? Well, we're going to round you all up and stick us in FEMA camps. So I'll be like, well, why don't you come down? This is going to be an awesome place. And you know what? The worst possible thing you can do at the end of the day is not going to change one very simple principle. Everybody I'm standing with, we are sharing the power of the Holy Spirit, and we have life together for everlasting. So drop dead for all I can because we're with God. And when we step in there, in that place, I just read it's the best comedy. Go rock in the camp 17. There we go. So, if you're in faith, the direction we try and push forward to is the principle of living intentionally and always pushing into a world where we give continuously to help one another. To live with through the power of love and God flowing through us. And in so doing, to live and building into a world that is free, rocking this world with the most powerful gift God has ever given us, and that is love. 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. The world is ours to remake. Let them have what they have. It's nothing. It's 10 square miles of a satanic worship hall called DC and a few other strictly around the country. This world is ours. And it's ours to claim under the name of God and our King Jesus Christ. So, all we have to do is have faith, press in, and live in that world we want to create. Correct. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the times that we come together, the power of love that continues to bind us, and the light that continues to glow within our souls. Lord, as we approach these outer limits and this great edge where we can break the bond those that can give us strength and clarity to see where those bonds can be broken and how. Guide us, Lord, to this place of sovereignty. We can truly live free as we proclaim the name of Jesus. Let us fall to our knees and bow and pray. Let us be humble before this glory that is given to us. And let us then stand and walk. A single day I'm committed to doing something to help somebody else. Find that pathway out to help a fellow patriot that might have a little bit of doubt, to empower somebody with something. And even in those difficult moments, know that He is there, that everything will be okay. So let's show and make a different way forward that can be witnessed by all those still in darkness, hopefully awaken them in the process. Until then, or until the next time, keep your head up and your eyes forward. Never bow to evil, never good night.
Pray for all it has been. Reaching out for something. Pull us up to level ground. Oh, I can see it now. I can see it now. We're on the edge of a moment. Another day, stay right and just sing every broken dream. We're together flawlessly on the edge of a moment. Through it all, how far you gonna go? Well, you know what you should know all along. Fast I can't fall. Then came your way on, way on. I'm dedicated to your way on. I'm dedicated to your way on. You got to stop the no, not gonna stay you should be. Don't let me go. Can't wait to stay. We can last all day. Inside your way on, way on. I'm dedicated to your way on. I'm dedicated to your way on.